The moment her father took my hand, I thought he was only being polite. Then he looked straight into my eyes, smiled like he already knew every secret I had tried to bury, and said, "So you re him." And in that one sentence, standing in the warm daylight outside their family home, I realized the woman beside him had been carrying my name in her heart long before I ever found the courage to carry hers. Before the story begins, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet love that waits patiently in the background, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ancient Truth. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who still believe that one good heart can change another life forever. My name was Callum, and for most of my life, I had been the kind of man who left before anyone could leave me. I was 32, old enough to know better, but still young enough to pretend my past had not shaped me. I worked as a contractor restoring old houses, fixing broken staircases, cracked walls, and damaged rooms, while quietly ignoring the broken things inside myself. I was good with my hands. I could make a ruined front porch look new again. I could bring warmth back into a house that had been abandoned for years. But when it came to people, I always stepped back. I never trusted promises, never trusted softness, and never trusted the kind of love that asked me to stay. Then I met Maren Ashford. She came into my life on a Monday morning with paint on her sleeve and tired hope in her eyes. Her family had hired my company to restore the guest cottage behind their home, a beautiful old place with cracked windows, ivy on the walls, and floors that groaned like they remembered every person who had ever walked across them. Maren was there when I arrived, holding a notebook against her chest, her auburn hair tied loosely back, her blue dress moving in the breeze as if even the wind treated her gently. She was not loud. She was not trying to impress anyone. She simply looked at the worn-out cottage and said it deserved to feel alive again. I remember laughing softly because most people only cared about resale value or design. Maren cared about feeling. She spoke about houses the way some people spoke about people, as if age and damage did not make something useless, only more worth saving. That should have warned me. Because people who believe old broken places can be restored often believe the same thing about old broken hearts. For 3 months, I worked behind her family's house. Every morning, I arrived while the sun was still soft. Every afternoon, Maren found a reason to walk out with coffee, lemonade, or some question about wood stain that she probably already knew the answer to. At first, I kept our conversations short. I told myself she was just kind. I told myself women like her looked at men like me with sympathy, not love. Her family had money, history, polished manners, and a home with stone steps and iron gates. I had a rented apartment, an old truck, and a heart trained to run. But Maren never made me feel small. She asked about my work like it mattered. She noticed details no one else saw. She remembered that I took my coffee without sugar. She saw me rubbing my wrist after a long day and left a heating wrap on the toolbox the next morning without saying a word. She laughed at my dry jokes, challenged my stubborn opinions, and once, when rain trapped us inside the unfinished cottage, she sat across from me on the dusty floor and told me she believed some people were afraid of happiness because sadness had become familiar. I did not answer her that day. I only looked out at the rain and pretended I had not heard the truth. The trouble started when her father, Prescott Ashford, announced a family gathering to celebrate the finished restoration. I was not supposed to attend as anything more than the man who had done the work. But Maren asked me herself. She looked nervous when she said it, standing by the cottage doorway in that same quiet way of hers, and told me it would mean a lot if I came. I wanted to refuse. I should have refused. But then she smiled, not brightly, not confidently, but like someone offering a fragile thing with both hands. So I said yes. That was how I ended up driving through the Ashford gates on a warm Saturday afternoon, palms damp against the steering wheel, wearing my best pale green shirt and khaki pants, feeling like an intruder in a world that had never been meant for me. The house glowed in the sunlight. Cars lined the driveway. Laughter drifted from the backyard. Everything smelled like grilled food, cut grass, and summer. I almost turned around twice before I parked. Maren saw me before anyone else did. She was standing near the side entrance in a blue wrap dress and white cardigan, her hands folded in front of her, her expression caught somewhere between relief and fear. She looked beautiful, but not in a distant way. She looked real. Nervous. Hopeful. Like she had been waiting for this exact moment and was terrified of what it might cost her. Before I could reach her, Prescott Ashford stepped out from the walkway. He was a tall man with silver hair, a dark sweater, and the kind of calm confidence that made other men check their posture. I knew him only from brief conversations about repairs and schedules. He had always been polite, but distant. Now he walked toward me with one hand in his pocket and the other extended, his eyes studying my face as if I were not a guest, but an answer to a question he had been asking for months. I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and steady. Then he smiled. "So you re him." The words hit me harder than they should have. I glanced at Maren, and the color in her cheeks told me everything she had not said. She looked down, then back up at me with eyes full of apology and hope. Suddenly every cup of coffee, every shared laugh, every quiet moment in the rain came back to me with new meaning. She had talked about me. Not once. Not casually. Enough for her father to know exactly who I was. I wanted to say something clever. I wanted to act normal. Instead, I stood there like a man who had just been handed a truth too delicate to hold. Prescott released my hand and turned slightly toward his daughter. His face softened in a way that changed him completely. He was not the intimidating owner of the house anymore. He was a father who had watched his daughter wait for someone afraid to arrive. He told me Maren had spoken highly of the man restoring the cottage. Not only the work, but the patience, the care, the way I fixed things properly even where no one would notice. Then he added, in a quieter tone, that people reveal who they are when they think no one important is watching. I felt my throat tighten. No one had ever described me that way. Reliable, maybe. Skilled, yes. But worthy? Good? The kind of man someone talked about to her father? That was different. That was dangerous. The afternoon moved around us, but I felt trapped inside that handshake. Maren's relatives greeted me. Her mother thanked me for the cottage. Children ran across the lawn. The barbecue smoke curled into the golden sky. Yet all I could think about was the way Maren had looked when her father said those words. She was embarrassed, but she was not ashamed. She had been caught caring, and she still did not look away. Later, I found myself standing near the restored cottage, away from the noise. The door was open, and sunlight spilled across the new floorboards. I remembered the first day I had seen it, neglected and cold, and how Maren had said it deserved to feel alive again. I finally understood she had not only been talking about the cottage. Maren came to stand beside me. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence was not empty. It was full of everything we had avoided. She told me she had not meant for her father to say anything. She said he noticed things, and after her mother passed through a long illness years ago, he had become careful with the hearts of the people he loved. He had seen her smiling again. He had asked why. And little by little, my name had entered their home. At breakfast. On walks. During phone calls with her sister. Not as a confession, she said, but as a habit. As if talking about me made the days gentler. I wanted to tell her I felt the same. Instead, fear rose inside me like a locked door. I told her she deserved someone easier. Someone from her world. Someone whose first instinct was not to run. The words sounded noble when I said them, but I knew they were cowardice wearing a clean shirt. Maren listened without interrupting. Then she said that everyone had a past, but not everyone used it as a prison. Her voice did not shake. Her eyes did. She told me she was not asking me to become perfect by tomorrow. She was only asking me not to decide for her what kind of man she was allowed to love. That broke something in me. For years, I had believed leaving was a mercy. If I walked away first, no one could be disappointed later. But looking at Maren in the afternoon light, I saw the cruelty hidden inside that habit. I had called it protection, but maybe I had only been protecting myself. Maybe I had left good people standing at doors I never had the courage to enter. Behind us, Prescott watched from the driveway. He did not interfere. He did not push. He simply stood with his hands in his pockets, giving his daughter the dignity of choosing, and giving me the chance to become the man she believed I already was. I told Maren the truth then. Not the polished version. The real one. I told her about my mother leaving when I was 9, about my father teaching me that love was something people promised when they needed something, then withdrew when life became difficult. I told her I had built a life out of distance because distance felt safer than hope. And I told her that every time she walked toward me with kindness, I wanted to trust it so badly it frightened me. She cried quietly, not because she pitied me, but because she understood the cost of saying it out loud. Then she reached for my hand. Not dramatically. Not like in the movies. Just gently, as if giving me the chance to pull away. I did not. That was the first time I chose to stay. The rest of the evening changed after that. Not loudly. No one announced anything. But something shifted. Prescott placed a plate of food in my hand and told me the steak was better if I stopped looking like I was waiting for a court sentence. Maren laughed, and I laughed too, surprised by how strange and good it felt. Her family asked about the cottage, about my work, about the old houses I had restored. For once, I did not feel like a hired man standing at the edge of someone else's life. I felt invited. As the sun lowered, Prescott walked me to the front gate. Maren lingered a few steps behind us, pretending not to listen. Her father looked at me with the same steady gaze from earlier. He said his daughter had a heart that noticed quiet suffering and sometimes mistook it for her responsibility to heal. Then he told me he did not need me to be rich, polished, or fearless. He only needed me to be honest. If I cared for her, I should not waste her time by hiding behind wounds I had no intention of healing. Those words stayed with me longer than any blessing could have. Over the weeks that followed, I did not become a new man overnight. Real change is not a lightning strike. It is a daily decision made in small, trembling ways. I called when I said I would. I showed up even when I felt unsure. I told Maren when I was afraid instead of disappearing into silence. She, in return, loved me without trying to erase me. She never treated my scars like flaws, but she also never allowed me to use them as excuses. The restored cottage became our place. We drank coffee there on Sunday mornings. We argued there once over something foolish and made peace before sunset. We painted one wall together and somehow got more paint on ourselves than the plaster. On the anniversary of that barbecue, I stood in the same driveway, wearing the same watch, with Prescott beside me and Maren walking toward us in a simple ivory dress. Her eyes were shining. Her father shook my hand again, but this time he did not say, "So you re him." This time, he said he was glad I had stayed. And I was glad too. Because love did not rescue me in one dramatic moment. It found me at a gate, nervous and unprepared. It looked like a woman in a blue dress who had spoken my name gently when I was not in the room. It sounded like a father who saw through my fear and still offered respect. It felt like sunlight on stone, a handshake, a second chance, and the terrifying, beautiful decision to believe I could be more than the man my past had made me. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who still believes in real love, and subscribe to Ancient Truth for more emotional stories about hope, forgiveness, and second chances. Special request: comment "I believe in second chances" if you think love can find people even after they have stopped looking for it. Years later, when people asked Marin when she knew I was the one, she would smile and say she knew before I did. And when they asked me when my life changed, I never mentioned the first coffee, the rain, or even the first time she held my hand. I told them it happened on a warm afternoon outside her family home, when her father shook my hand, looked into my eyes, and said 4 words that made me finally understand I had already been loved longer than I had dared to hope.